A couple years ago, I was attending a conversation with Alexandra Alter at the New York Times, who has done books coverage for years and years. And she just point blank said, a review on the cover of the New York Times book review just doesn't sell books the way it used to. Just like, and she wasn't shy about it. She just stated the truth. And I like, by that point, you felt like that it was true. And now she was confirming it for you. And so it raises this question of like, why doesn't anyone pay attention to what the critics say? And I think a lot of it, we can chalk it up to the internet and us caring more what our peers think or friends rather than trusting these gatekeepers or tastemakers or professionals or critics. It's kind of hand in hand with the decline of criticism.
Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we welcome back Jane Friedman of The Bottom Line, who will answer a reader question once again, which is, why don't reviews sell books anymore?
So first, I feel like I have to discuss some evidence for why that's the case, because some people might not believe it's true. And I also want to say we're talking about, or I'm going to interpret this question as not reader reviews, but the professional reviews, the New York Times, blah, blah. I'm not much of a music person myself, but I read recently a fascinating piece about music criticism and how it's been really transformed over the decades into something that, good luck finding a professional music critic these days. I guess that applies to a lot of arts professions, but it's, if you look at something like TikTok and how that is selling books, that is not professional critics. That's not the New York Times making recommendations. It's people having emotional reactions. It's very authentic. And it just feeds this culture of what are people emotionally reacting to next? And I need to see if I have the same response and then share my reaction on TikTok. There was something else I wanted to say, but it'll come back to me. So now you go.
We'll buy you some time.
Yeah, so the thing that I always invoke here is the Rachel Norda and Kathy Inman-Behrens did a study about this that just blew the doors off of it, where they basically found that, in an academic research study, that basically people don't even trust booksellers because they think they have skin in the game. People don't trust book reviewers because, it's like a misunderstanding of those roles, I guess. But they would absolutely trust their mom, even if they have completely different tastes in what they read.
Yes, right.
Or they would go, and most people would buy a book because their friend, who again probably has different tastes, is like, I just read this book, it was really good.
Exactly. Yeah. And now I remembered what I wanted to say. To go back to the New York Times, I mention it because it's I think it has maybe the last freestanding book review section. If there's another one, it's probably at the Washington Post. And they still do every day, they publish something new about books or books culture. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but I certainly have. A lot of their content, and its content, is really about, let us help you find your next book to read. It has, in my mind, almost nothing to do with criticism. It's more like, we'll help you brainstorm and take away the paradox of choice.
Our industry is run by billionaires and conglomerates.
At Microcosm, we wanted the freedom to independently sell our books, easily pay royalties, manage our inventory, and understand our business all in one place.
That's why we've been using our own software since 2001.
Now, we want to share it with you.
Working Lit is the only business success software that is created and owned 100% by publishers for publishers.
Join Working Lit and get the agency you need to help your business grow.
Visit workinglit.com to try it for free.
It's like very BuzzFeed-like listicles of stuff. I'm not saying it's not useful, but it's not criticism.
Yeah, there's like gift guides now.
Yeah.
Great.
Often, I think, made by people who have never given or received a gift. But like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, and that's like the thing is like, who do you trust? Who are the tastemakers? Who do you trust? Who do you have a parasocial or a real relationship with? And I feel like I don't know. I used to read the New York Times book reviews, and like I was like, it was almost aspirational, I was like, This is what the smart people are reading. This is what the people are reading who I want to be like them. And now I don't know what happened to that. I don't feel that way anymore. Maybe nobody does.
And so this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's related to the same phenomenon, the celebrity book clubs.
Ah, yes.
Or like
are the tastemakers.
Yeah, which, at least one of them is tied to a morning show, the Jenna Bush Today Show book club selection. I've been reading more and more from like publicists and others who look at this space that even those selections don't mean what they used to. Like, I don't know if you go way back when Oprah was doing her picks, it was like the event, who is she going to pick next? And it immediately became a bestseller. That doesn't really happen reliably with any of these celebrity picks. And in fact, I find over time, the picks are getting more and more like predictable. They're just choosing things that already have success attached to them somehow. And so and I feel like that just also feeds into the lack of interest or trust, or the way, especially younger people are looking at their peers rather than what this 50-year-old celebrity has to say. Speaking as a nearly 50-year-old person, no shade there, but it's just,
we're not the generation of influencers.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I mean, and I think you're onto it though, that the parasocial thing was the one exception, but I think it's because it like tricks your brain to think that you're friends with those people so that their recommendations would somehow be above reproach, even though they are literally often the ones that are getting paid to recommend a product to you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and like honestly, like the books that we've had that have been the best sellers, like I can think of one exception that also got like exceptionally good book reviews in the mainstream media and mentioned in the mainstream media. And I don't know if it's I don't think it's a bestseller because of that. I think it's a bestseller because the book is called How to Resist Amazon and Why.
Right.
And people see the title and they're like on it.
Sold. Yeah. Like we got the New Yorker and the New York Times and all these things.
I mean, to be fair, the author got all of that.
I think the book got that. I think it was the interesting nature of it. And, it's like anything, it was the same thing that happened. We did the book Henry and Glenn Forever in 2010 that was like, got us more media than we've ever knew existed. We were in Entertainment Weekly and we were on MTV and, when that still existed. And we were in just about if you could name it, we were in it that year for that book. But the real reason is because people were talking about it every single day on Twitter.
It was like a meme.
Yeah.
It was viral in a way that.
So it's almost like the reviews are like the honor that you get for having a successful book rather than the driver of that success.
Right. I would agree. And I think partly that's informed by my own experience years ago in traditional publishing, where our books never got reviews, ever.
Yeah.
And we didn't even try, they just weren't the sort of books that got reviews, but it didn't hurt sales. And I just never thought about, I absolutely have to get my book reviewed. So like now, years later, when I'm looking at authors, just, they're like the cartoon characters running in place and not going anywhere, trying to get these reviews. And I'm like, why don't you focus on something else that, plus it might actually sell books instead of trying to get this review that isn't likely to move the needle.
We built this software from scratch to solve our own problems starting in 2001.
It's not only the reason for our survival, but the reason we've been a Publishers Weekly fastest growing publisher 3 years in a row.
Now we want to share it with you.
Join Working Lit and get back the agency to understand your publishing business, market and sell your books, and painlessly pay royalties.
Working Lit. Doing the math for publishers.
Visit workinglit.com to give it a try for free. And now you can like pay for trade reviews and kinds of reviews too. And like how much of it is just a game that you're playing for the sake of the game.
Agreed. Yeah.
And we had a book reviewed in the Washington Post this year, which is called Books That Should Never Exist.
It's a coloring book.
Oh yeah, I guess that would have been topical in a certain interview recently. But the book reviewer loved it because, obviously he's inundated with books all the time, and so he really appreciated it. But that sold maybe a couple hundred copies, or give or take, and I mean it caused Ingram to reorder a few times, and that was nice. But it's the thing I think about is about the books where they're completely ignored when they come out, and then they end up on these like best of lists years later.
Right.
But that's kind of like how you already know you've been successful. It's like the opposite of a review, even though it's like those are much more quotable. They would never say those things about the book when it was new.
So Jane, like, what are you seeing? Like, we are seeing obviously that reviews don't sell books, and we've talked about why. Like, what are you seeing that does sell books? Like, how that publishers can influence?
No hard questions.
Yeah. Let me pull out my bag of secrets. So,
how do we do it?
well, I know that you guys answer the phone, and that's your secret. Which so much of the bigger publisher focus has to do currently with looking at influencers and people who seem to have more of a direct line to their readership in ways that feel authentic to the people on the other end. I think there's more focus on Substack and newsletter types of coverage. And I think the good news, based on what I heard at the most recent US Book Show, is that the major publishers are recognizing that they can't just bail after the first 3 months or for 6 months if they didn't get any reviews or whatever, because it's just a real long, slow burn. Like you said, it might take a few years before a book ends up on a best of list, because it just took that long for people to discover it. And so I'm hearing more about publishers looking for these signs and communities, looking for little blips of interest, and then trying to capitalize on those little blips and egg it on and help the book get more attention because it's been seeded somewhere else. But it could be podcasts, it could be newsletters, it could be TikTok, it could be YouTube, any one of those places.
Right.
That's heartening news. And, maybe 10 years from now, we'll be doing an episode interview with you. We'll all be like nearing 60, and we'll be talking about why doesn't TikTok sell books anymore?
It's coming. It's coming.
Right. Yeah. But no, I think you're right. And I think that is like timeless advice, is like, if you engage honestly, well, like sarcasm was in vogue for our generation, but it's now really out of vogue. And now it's much more about sincerity and, like I'm like actually honestly into this enough that I'm going to cry about it, which is kind of cool in a way.
Yeah.
I would mark it that way, but that's just like not my generational expression.
I feel like if we could get you crying about a book on TikTok, it could be huge.
Right? It would be really authentic.
All right, we're gonna go off and get some eye drops.
Got some work to do.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
on Twitter at Microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at Microcosm_pub,
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.